I can do something that hopefully inspires other people to say, hey, let's end the year on an up note, and let's start the year in a positive frame of mind. And if you want a formula to happiness, let me give it to you. Serve other people selflessly, right?
Conversations.
Hey Zouk family, welcome back. This week I am going to chat to a good friend of mine, and I always open the context by introducing people as local heroes, but in this terminology I think it's entirely fair and in no way exaggerated. Sam McGoun has just finished the equivalency of 10 ironmen in 30 days to raise money for Sala Bai Hospitality School in Siem Reap, Cambodia, an incredibly special place that I've been lucky enough to visit that is single-handedly using education as a way to combat human trafficking and poverty to very underprivileged people in Cambodia who really have no other access to education. And I stress that they have no other opportunity. And what Sala Bai is doing, which Sam will definitely expand upon, is educating these young people who are smart, often gifted, and giving them a chance to use their skills to better the lives of not just themselves, but their family. Sam, first and foremost, how are you? How are your legs after all of the cycling, running, and swimming you've been doing? And secondly, can you tell us a bit more about Sala Bai? Sure.
Well, Joe, thanks for having me. It's great to talk to you about a subject that's really near and dear to my heart. Legs are doing good. Knock on wood, body's holding up okay. But I think I'm getting a lot of positive encouragement from the people that matter most, and in this case, that's our students and graduates and their families at Sala Bai. Yes, Sala Bai is an extraordinary program. For your listeners and viewers, a quick sort of overview of what the school does. It was started in 2002 after the end of the civil war in Cambodia, and one of the things that Cambodia knew at the time it was going to do was to focus on growing hospitality, growing, the UNESCO World Heritage Site, which is in Angkor Wat, Siem Reap, and create jobs that way. And so Sala Bai entered with the idea that it would focus on the most impoverished young Cambodians who would otherwise have no opportunity at an education. And gave them a very practical path to a job. So 11 months, 5 disciplines that these young kids can choose from. Those 5 disciplines are a mix of back and front office activities. So cooking, housekeeping. We added spa and beauty therapy a couple of years ago. And then you have restaurant service and front desk. Those are the 5 they get to choose from. And in that 11 months, they go from essentially, and this is really what's remarkable about it, is they go essentially from a rural kampong with no electricity, not even, part of teaching these young kids is about basic life skills, and then bringing them into an environment with 100 other young Cambodians of a similar background. And then 11 months later, these young kids are employed at a 4 or 5 star hotel and earning more than 3 times what their subsistence living, essentially their household, was making prior to the program. So it's efficient, and it's really focused on those who need it most. And of course, it's free. So it's a solution to combating, alleviating poverty, combating human trafficking.
So, but Sam, you say it's free. There's a little bit of a misconception there, because it's only free because of the type of fundraising that you're doing now. And whilst I'm sure you love to go for a run, 10 Ironmen in 30 days is extreme, and it's also phenomenal. I mean, I don't know many people who could achieve this. I don't even know the fittest of my friends that could achieve this, but you're doing it in order to raise money for Sala Bai, because I can tell you firsthand, in our industry, which is hospitality, it's been almost decimated by COVID. 1 year of a lot of bars, restaurants. I mean, nightclubs are non-existent. Restaurants are struggling with the limitation of how many seats per table you can have, and bars are pretty much in the same position. But a hospitality school that relies on these kind of vessels, especially, as you say, five-star hotels that can't open because there's no tourism, it's incredibly scary, because these people that you're talking about, these young Cambodians, have a dream that they're going to be gifted with training that will help them improve their lives. And then there's this horrible threat of closing down hospitality. So it's really important, the fundraising that you're doing. Can you tell us a bit more about why you're doing it, what you're aiming to raise, and how the thought process came in the first place?
Yeah. So why I'm doing it, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, this is a very difficult time for the school. It's a not-for-profit, program, and it relies on the generosity of donors across the world to have connected with this cause, and many of them being in the hospitality industry. At this time during the pandemic, there is no source of income for the school. So you alluded to the challenges hospitality is facing worldwide. Some markets have a silver lining in that they've got domestic tourism. That's not the case in a poor country like Cambodia. So in fact, the faucet, if you will, has been completely shut off. And the 70-seat restaurant that the school uses to help generate income, the 6-seat training hotel and the spa, all part of the overall training program at Sala Bai, those revenue sources are completely wiped out. So it's all the more important that we shine a spotlight on these types of programs that for a long period of time, 18 years in the case of Sala Bai, 1,850 graduates in the course of that 18 years. And I think this is the thing that really has gotten me supporting this school as long as I have, is 100% employment within 3 months of graduation without fail in that 18-year period. And that's pretty remarkable. And I think for your viewers, I think what's important to understand is that when you're working with the most impoverished young women and men, you can't offer a free vocational training without a guarantee of a job. It's like providing hope and then pulling the rug out from underneath you. We make it a mission to ensure that employment comes very quickly after this very quick education. And then, of course, they grow within their jobs, and many of them go back to university. But the key is these 1,850 graduates, every one of them, Joe, have sent money back to their family. So the 1,850 graduates have lifted 10,000 plus Cambodians out of poverty. And that's a number. I mean, you start to get to some scale over time. That's a big number. And so why is it so important that we take action now? Is because in Cambodia, like with many developed countries, there's a couple of pre-existing conditions. We talk about pre-existing conditions within the context of the pandemic and people who are more at risk of or more susceptible to contracting the virus. There are pre-existing conditions that many developing countries across the world have that make them more susceptible to the risks of the pandemic, and Cambodia is one of them. People forget that this country underwent a horrific civil war in between the late 1960s and it didn't end. Fighting did not officially end until 1999. Mm-hmm. People think of the Khmer Rouge regime, which was just a terrible genocide in which 20% of the Cambodian population were murdered, with a focus on people who had an education. The whole goal of the regime was to wipe out the intellectual elite. But what people don't remember is that fighting and relative calm did not ensue until December 5th, 1998. That was the official end of when the last Khmer Rouge guerrillas, laid their arms up and said, hey, we're done. But so we're talking about a 20-year period in which a country has had a chance to start to heal. And Cambodia has made extraordinary strides in that period. So 50% people of Cambodians lived underneath the poverty line in 2007. That number has dropped to 14% by 2014 and is a little bit lower now. And you sort of think, wow, we're out of the woods, right? You know, a big chunk of the population is out of poverty. But this is the pre-existing condition that I'm talking about. So many people, 6.5 million Cambodians of the 15.7 million, the total population of the country, they're living right below or right at that poverty line. So when you have an industry like hospitality, which accounts for 30% of all jobs in the country, that it goes to zero overnight and extends for a long period of time, that's a pre-existing condition that makes it extraordinarily difficult for any Cambodian to combat. There's no safety nets here, right? It's not like you're getting a PPP check, you know, that's going to say, hey, you know, this will tide you over for a month. It's not happening. So I think the key point is, why is it so dire? Why is the situation so challenging? Is because people are living so close to that poverty line, and you have an entire industry that has gone to zero overnight. So that great work of 18 years, it can be undone in the course of 6 to 12 months if we're not careful. And that's why I think we all have to do what we can to support this group.
It's an incredible story, and you raise a lot of historical data that really does put the magnifying glass on why you're doing it, but also why it's so important. Because, as you say, you're not just, people will hear the fact of, oh, you can triple your income. It's not a case that these guys are going off and buying iPhones and living a luxury life. They're literally funneling back home. And as you said, what I find really fascinating about what you said is, we are educating one individual who can help a family of 8, who then can expand to support a further family of maybe 20. So your 1,800 turns to 10,000 very fast, which means you're basically going from developing a school to helping a town. And the knock-on effect is almost a city-wide volume of people, which is a huge cross-pollination of improvement. Focusing on your achievements, Sam, a little bit, you decided what? I've seen your fellow counterparts in Touch Sala Bai have gone and done the Angkor Wat Marathon to raise money. I've seen various different impacts to make money. It's all phenomenal, and I've been lucky enough to hang out with the group you have in Singapore that are really leading the charge with this. But then you decided to take on something extreme, and I know you well enough. You're a super enthusiastic guy, and you're a guy that actually makes stuff happen, which I really admire. But this one, Sam, is a phenomenal effort to put in, and you're now juggling it with not just running during a little bit of off time, but you're juggling literally half marathons with work. So how did this idea come about, and how's it gone so far?
Well, you know, I think the idea came about because there was a need, you know, and I think that can motivate people. You know, I think one thing, not to get too deep on you here, Joe, but I think one thing that we all share is we want to have a purpose, right? You know, if there's a time that I look back on my life, and I think we all look back on our life, and we ask ourselves, what did we do during this pandemic? The most challenging time in our lifetimes to help those who needed it most. You know, you want to have an answer that says, I did absolutely everything that I could in my power to do that. I mean, for me, at a personal level, that's what I want. And not to say that the pandemic hasn't impacted me. I mean, my business is having big challenges as well. And certainly I know, you know, your business is as well. Anybody in hospitality is feeling that way. But I think, so why is the need? And it was a purpose. You know, there's been so much negativity over the course of 2020. You know, what a better way to end 2020 and enter 2021 by having a clear purpose and a mission that is going to help the people in need. I mean, that was the driving motivation. So I can do something that hopefully inspires other people to say, hey, let's end the year on an up note, and let's start the year in a positive frame of mind. And if you want a formula to happiness, let me give it to you. Serve other people selflessly, right? I mean, seriously. I mean, it's not a whole lot more complicated than that. The less we think about ourselves, the more we think about others, the more content we are. So 1850, it's a big number, but it had a very clear connection. We have 1,850 graduates. 1850, I started to break it down. 18 days, 1850. Can we do that? And the answer was, yeah. I mean, you can do anything, as long as you feed your body the right food, fuel it with the right drink, get enough rest. And thankfully, I had 18 days off of work at that time. Now it's a little bit more challenging, but yeah, that's really the motivation, and to raise funds. I mean, at the end of the day, what can we do sitting in Singapore for a school in Cambodia? I'd love to go there. I'd love to be there, but I'm not allowed to. And what can I do to help? Well, the best thing I can do is inspire others, walk the talk, get out there, do something that other people can say, hey, you know what? I can make my own pledge. I can challenge myself to help other people. And I believe in that sort of virtuous circle of people inspiring others to just, it could be small, right? But you're challenging yourself to do something good for others. What could be better?
And so 7 marathons in 18 days. Many people struggle to do one in their lifetime. 300 kilometers, then an extra 1,500 kilometers on the bike. Now, I have a personal question for you. When I went to Sala Bai with you, you took me out into Siem Reap, had a great time with you, and you have quite an exclusive diet. You were knocking back the scorpions like they were going out of fashion. Are the scorpions part of your marathon diet, Sam?
No, scorpions are hard to come by here in Singapore. So I had to find another source of protein, Joe. But thanks for pulling that out. I appreciate that. I'm sure you're going to talk about my dancing and music tastes.
We're moving straight onto that because, but on a serious note, Sam. Okay. Focused heavily on the importance of what you're doing, focused heavily on Sala Bai. And we will also publish some information so that people can hopefully be inspired by what you're doing and donate and even go and visit. Because I've had friends who have gone and visited and they've had lunch there and they've seen it firsthand. Treat it like a restaurant, treat it and just go and see how good these people are. Because to be honest, in the last half decade of being in Southeast Asia, it was some of the best service and quality of experience that I've had, and I'm saying that firsthand, and I'm saying that genuinely. Secondly, Sam, how does someone get through such a lot of running? I know you're a hip hop fan. You must be music getting you through it, apart from just the sheer will of supporting the school. What's on your playlist whilst you're running through the hot sun in Singapore? Because it's not an easy place to run. It's scorching hot and it's humid as hell. So what's on your playlist?
Well, yeah, I mean, some of the artists are probably inconsistent a little bit with the mission. I grew up in suburban Detroit, which has, sort of musical roots, right? Motown, deep techno, and hip hop. And so my playlist is really sprinkled with a little bit of all of that. But I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, that "Lose Yourself" by Eminem is on that playlist. You need that motivational song to get through those last few Ks. But I like artists like Murs and Mayday. These guys a little bit more motivational messaging. But I am definitely a hip hop fan. And then we do some kind of old school like Biggie Smalls and P Diddy and that sort of thing. But I also tune out sometimes too. You just think about the people that you care about, and you think about why you're doing this. And you use that. And I mean, I know it sounds philosophical, but I'm sure I'm just an amateur. When you talk to professionals, they also understand the power of the mind to get you through, once you get some base level of fitness, to get you through the journey that you have at hand. And so it's really the thinking about who we're doing this for and why we're doing it. And you brought up a point about visiting the school. that is what changed my life, right? I mean, I had traveled to a lot of places across the world, and I critically accused myself of passing through destinations as opposed to actually getting to the heart of a destination. And when I went to Phnom Penh back in 2005, and then was introduced to Sala Bai, a year later, and then went to Sala Bai, it changed everything. I mean, it really changed everything. If you want to be motivated, all you have to do is make a 12-minute investment and watch that movie that was put together about one student's journey. It's called KHATNA'S journey, and I think maybe we can give access to that. And then if you want to plan a vacation that's relatively inexpensive and learn a lot about Sala Bai, go stay at Sala Bai. I mean, it'll literally change your life. It'll help you give a lot of perspective on your own life, and certainly it'll lift your spirits. So I think I really appreciate you pointing that out, because it is the visit that changes your life.
Yeah, it's important to register that it's not just a school which is happening behind the scenes. You can physically go and experience it, which is what blew my mind, because you can see the appreciation firsthand of the people that you're supporting, and literally the money you're spending is not going to a faceless organization. It's going to genuine faces that are living and breathing and teaching. And we went to the school classes, we saw the rooms that they were being taught in, we met the teachers, we met the staff, and it was a great experience. And I actually stayed there. The rooms are beautiful. It was a great overall experience. And then the local town is really worth exploring and fascinating. And we did a fundraiser, I remember. It's great fun. You and I sat next to each other during the auction.
Yeah, that was fun.
I actually bought 2 holidays that I never even used.
Man, it's funny that you point that out, because I'm sitting at my desk here and I'm looking at 2 certificates from that same auction for holidays that I have not used either. And what did that say about us? I guess maybe we can auction those back off to somebody else. Who knows?
Yeah, please do. But I had a lot of fun sitting next to you. We had a lot of fun that night, and what's amazing is that it's almost like every mover and shaker in Siem Reap was there to not only donate items but also to bid on them, and you kind of got the feeling that the whole town was coming together for this one special school, which is
you're exactly right. I think what's a reminder about that is that you don't need to have a lot in life to make a big impact. And with Sala Bai, it has a loyal group of new and old donors that it crosses the spectrum. This is not just a group of people who have some disposable income that are supporting the school. This is hospitality supporting hospitality, and recognizing the power of hospitality to uplift some of the most vulnerable people in the world. And I think that's a really important story for people to understand.
So Sam, let me fast forward a bit. Looking forward, what's next for you?
Well, we had a big target for this fundraiser. It was 185,000 Singapore dollars, which is a big amount of money to raise at any time, particularly during a pandemic where there are needs all over the world. We ended the 18 days at about 80,000, which is a big number, but it is well short of where we need to be. So I kept going. I mean, we keep going. This is not a time in our lives that we stop and say, oh, we did really good at getting 80. Let's just call it a day. We're not living in that time. We're living in a time where if you're trying to reach a target, you meet the target because people's lives are at stake. And so I'm finding a way to balance making new commitments, reaching out to people, talking to them as much as I can about the cause, and also showing the physical demonstration that we don't stop the journey halfway finished. I'm in the pool doing 1,850 laps now. I'm in my running stuff. I'm going to go out and do a run after our talk here. You just got to keep moving, Joe. Moving forward, man. That's what it's all about, and that's what I'm going to do at least through the end of January. And we'll take stock of where we are at that point.
Sam, first and foremost, thanks for taking the time to talk to us. You're not just a huge inspiration and someone that personally I'm completely gobsmacked with how selfless you've been in. We're not. Let's look beyond this. You know, the 10 ironmen, or the you've been doing this for years. You've been visiting the school for years, and as you say, everyone, especially after 2020, looks at what is their sense of purpose. Why do you wake up in the morning, and what do you achieve? And I think you have literally walked the walk in that you are doing your very best to help other people to live a better life than they can afford themselves. And by afford, I don't mean financially, I mean by circumstance. And this is one of the most important messages I think that I would like to get across is these people were born into their situation. More often than not, if you're my age now, it means you lived through, at the very minimum, 18 years of civil war. You were probably born with next to no electricity, definitely no disposable income, and the children had to go out to support the family who were already supporting their grandparents. So it's a 3-generational struggle that you're born into, and Sam has selflessly given himself up to try and support this, along with the huge network and obviously the Touch Sala Bai network and everyone else that we discussed. But first of all, thanks so much for sharing that story, Sam, because it is hugely inspirational. And second of all, congratulations on what has been an amazing achievement. I know you won't give up. You'll probably do something extremely impressive next after that. But the very best of luck with finishing this. But also, I think finishing is the wrong word, because I'm sure it will just be a further extension into what you'll end up doing until your last days.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Keep moving forward, and I'm glad you pointed out the team. Without people's messages and you making time for this, Joe, yourself, I mean, drawing attention to it, it gives me a lot of positive energy, and we can all draw inspiration from each other. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you.
My very last question, Sam, is when are you going to do a fundraising based around your dancing?
Oh yeah, good one. Good one. Well, there are some outtakes, Joe. I'd love those. Are probably the ones that will trend a lot higher than the other videos, I'm sure, the way the world works. So yeah, I want to release a Santa suit sort of break dance.
I've seen
yeah.
it.
Oh, you have? Okay. Well, we got to clean up the lyrics on that a little bit, but yeah, we got to have some fun now and again, and we can maybe get one of those Santa break dances online.
There's space for it always. Listen, Sam, you take care. Stay safe. Thanks again for inspiring us, and good luck.
Yeah. Hey, thanks a lot, Joe. Great to talk to you.
Take care, my friend.
See you.